I know thy works, in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them, which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Revelation 2:9.
This verse contains two parts. Let's break it down clearly and scripturally. The first part, I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. This is directed to the true Judah of the true Israelites. The word thy is speaking directly to the suffering assembly in Smyrna, symbolically representing the true scattered descendants of Judah. Smyrna was a real city in Asia Minor, which is modern-day Izmir, Turkey. At that time, it was under Roman imperial rule. The name Smyrna is associated with myrrh, symbolizing suffering and death. This aligns with the trials faced by the true believers in that city. The believers who lived there were living during the height of Roman persecution against the followers of Yahushua, the Messiah, especially the Hebrews who had accepted him as the Messiah. The tribulation 10 days mentioned in Revelation 2 and 10 is generally understood here as a short but intense persecution period, likely linked to an imperial crackdown. So, who were the true people in Smyrna? Many in the Smyrna assembly were ethnically Hebrew Israelites, descendants of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, scattered into Asia Minor after the Assyrian exile of the northern kingdom in 722 BCE and the Babylonian exile of the southern kingdom in 586 BCE and the Roman conquest of Judea in 63 BCE onward. After 70 AD, when Rome destroyed Jerusalem, more Hebrews fled into surrounding regions, including Asia Minor. Smyrna's true assembly was a remnant of these scattered Israelites, alongside some non-Israelite converts who followed the true faith of Yahushua. So, who were the persecutors? Smyrna was a loyal Roman city, known for emperor worship. Persecution came from two primary groups: the Roman authorities, representing Japhethitic power through Rome, descendants of Javan and other sons of Japheth, a group claiming to be Jews but were not. Revelation 2 and 9. These were Edomite converts to Judaism from the Hasmonean period, when John Hyrcanus forcibly converted Edomites approximately around 125 BCE. They later merged with Greco-Roman elites, spiritually tied to the synagogue of Satan, false brethren who betrayed true Hebrews to Roman authorities.
Before we go any further, let's make a brief clarification regarding the difference between the term Hebrews, which is also used interchangeably with the term Israelite, and the term Jews, which is also used interchangeably with the term Israeli. It is crucial that we raise these distinctions, especially when exploring ancient identities and how they've been reframed over time. Hebrews originally refers to the descendants of Eber, an ancestor of Abraham, as mentioned in Genesis chapter 10, verse 21. The term is often used in early biblical texts to describe the people before they became a nation, especially in the context of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and their descendants. Israelites refers to the descendants of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel after wrestling with the angel of the Most High, according to Genesis 32 and 28, and from him was formed the 12 tribes of Israel. The term Jew or Jews is said to come from Judah, one of the 12 tribes, the fourth son of Jacob and Leah. However, not all Hebrews were Jews, and the term Jew became dominant much later, post-Babylonian exile, and into the Second Temple period. The term Jew today often refers to a broad religious and cultural identity, not strictly to the ethnic descendants of Jacob or Judah. The original Hebrews were a Shemitic people with a distinct language and tribal lineage. Over millennia, diaspora, conversion, and cultural shifts have complicated that picture. So when modern Ashkenazi Jews call themselves Jews, it's often in reference to religious and cultural continuity, not necessarily a pure ethnic lineage from Jacob. The term Israeli was coined in 1948, when the modern state of Israel was established. It refers to a citizen of the modern state of Israel, regardless of religious or ethnic background. It's derived from Israel plus the Hebrew suffix y, which denotes nationality. This term is not biblical and was never used in ancient texts. It's a modern political designation distinct from Israelite, a descendant of Jacob, Israel, in the biblical sense. Hebrew, a broader ethnic and linguistic identity tied to the ancient Shemitic people, descended from Shem. Here is the bloodline reality. The persecuted in Smyrna during the 1st century by bloodline, they descended from Shem, Eber, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, also known as Israel. Then there is Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and the other 9 sons of Jacob, also known as the 12 tribes of Israel. Their spiritual status is that they were followers of Yahushua, holding the testimony despite poverty. Their descendants today are largely among the scattered melanated Israelites in Africa, the Americas, the Caribbean, and parts of Asia via slave trade and migrations. The persecutors in Smyrna during the 1st century by bloodline, they were Edom, Esau, and Japheth. And these 2 nations of people formed an alliance that created a Rome and Greeks mix. Their political role was backed by Roman authority, infiltrated synagogues, and opposed the Messiah's followers. Their descendants today are found among European power structures, Ashkenazi Jewish elites, Vatican-linked religious systems, and global banking dynasties. So, the persecuted Smyrna believers migrated deeper into Africa, Arabia, India after later Roman crackdowns, and became captured centuries later in the Arab slave trade, the transatlantic slave trades, the Islamic slave trade, the trans-Saharan slave trade, the East African and Indian Ocean slave trade, the European slave trade, which was the enslavement of non-melanated or so-called white people, then the Barbary Coast slave trade, the Ottoman slave trade, the trans-Indian slave trade, the colonial and indigenous slave trades in the Americas, and the modern human trafficking, which is contemporary slavery. Today, their scattered descendants are the oppressed true Hebrew Israelites of the African diaspora, Afro-Caribbeans, Afro-Latin Americans, Melanesians, and the 4 corners of the earth. And the persecutors, the Romans and false Jews, are the Roman Empire that morphed into the Holy Roman Empire, papacy, and European colonial powers. And the false Jews are Edom and Khazar, historically known as Japheth. They rise to dominate religion, rabbinic and Talmudic, financial systems, governmental systems, and political systems. Today they form part of the global elite and Zionist leadership, often posing as the covenant people. The key truth here is that Smyrna is not about European Gentile Christians being persecuted. It's about true bloodline Israelites who were poor in the world's eyes but rich in faith, being oppressed by the Roman beast system and Edomite imposters.
We would have that. I can't say it better than knowing you.
Some would probably argue, some non-white people in particular would probably argue that indeed we think white people know non-white people, and by that knowing are more able to control and dominate and keep the power dynamic as it is. How would you respond to that?
We know what we've done to you. And we know what over 500 years we've put in your heads. And we know how to utilize that. And we know how to take advantage of that. And we even know how to have a black friend. We know the dynamics of who is in control. And I don't care how much the system has changed to the point to where what is politically correct at this point might be different from what was politically correct in the 50s. We still know where your place is. We know where our place is. And to me, the greatest deception that we've caused is that your people believe us when we say, this is my place and that is your place. Because I see evidence, and especially in seminars like this, because I will hear non-whites speak, and I hear them speak when they don't even know that they're speaking from a position that I have told them is the only way they're going to be allowed to succeed to that degree that I'm going to let them come up that ladder. Of course, I'm just going to let them come up so far. But the greatest sadness for me is that they don't even know. See, I have done such a good job that they don't even know that I've done this to them. A strong black man one time said to me, one of the greatest things you can do for my people is to stop shedding any tears. Because I'm very emotional. I get very emotional because this is my heart. And it's what I will probably die doing. I have no illusions about what my people think about the work that I do. And I realize that. But when I talk with someone, it would be very easy for me to begin to weep at what we do and what we have done. And he said to me, you must stop the tears, because my people are so conditioned to putting their arms around you and comforting you when you weep, then they are no longer strong. Their strength that is coming from standing up and saying, no, you're not going to treat me like that. That strength is gone because they've got their arms around you, comforting you. And I have tried to listen to the wisdom of that very, very wise man. I can't always, when I sat in that room the other night, that when the author of Without Sanctuary, when he was speaking and those pictures were there of the lynchings, the methods that we have used to keep control, I wept, that I couldn't. But when I wept, his words came back to me, because all around me, the non-white people would reach out and comfort me. My God, there in front of, I don't understand it. See, I don't understand the closeness that your people have with the Mother Earth, with the concept of beginnings, God himself. There is so much of that in you that you can forgive me and comfort me when I'm weeping at what I've done to you. See, that's beyond my understanding. I don't understand the kindness, and I say the word forgiveness, and God forgive me for saying the word forgiveness, because another very wise black man said to me, don't ever ask my people for forgiveness, because the word forgiveness means the eradication of a debt. If someone owes you money and you forgive that debt, then they don't owe you anymore. And I don't want to ever be a part of, for even a moment between just the two of us, eradicating any part of the debt that I owe you, because it's a just debt. And it's a debt that needs to be repaid to the fullness of my ability to repay. So what I say to you is I apologize for what my people, for what I've done to you, to your ancestors, to your children, and unless we're successful here, to your grandchildren. I apologize, and I mean that. See, and to any non-white that hears me, but I don't ask your forgiveness. Did I go off?
No, all of this is relevant and helpful. So, speak as you will. You mentioned that white people who classify themselves as white, are aware, they know what has been done, what they have done over the years to non-white people. And there are two particular areas of activity that appear to be critical to maintaining the system of racism, white supremacy. These are activities that people all over the planet engage in. And the first one is religion. So can you talk specifically about what white persons have done to or taught non-white people in the area of religion in the context of racism?
You're wanting it to be to where I can't ever go home. That's it. Christianity has been misused for hundreds of years to keep your people in subjugation. And I'm speaking now a reality that the history books do not record, but history does. Christianity was used because if I said, okay, you don't believe the way I believe, and Christianity is the best way to believe, so I'm going to take you, and it's going to be for your own good, honey. It's going to be for your own good. I'm going to take you, and I'm going to tear away everything about you, and just keep your hands and your feet, because they can help me. I'm getting off. But I'm going to do this for your own good, because I'm going to give you a God. Now, what does that God look like? The reality of it is when he came here, he didn't look.
Their outward condition is poor and oppressed, yet Yahushua says they are spiritually rich because they have faith, endurance, and truth. This is true Judah, scattered, suffering, but still chosen. And the second part of Revelation 2 and 9. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. This is directed at false Jews, those claiming identity falsely. This refers to a group of impostors, claiming to be the true Hebrews, Yehudim of Judah, but who are not, and are instead part of Satan's agenda. Yahushua calls this blasphemy, which means they are stealing identity, lying about lineage, and misusing the covenant identity of Judah. The entire book of Revelation was given to John by Yahushua through an angel who received it from Yahuwah, the Heavenly Father. The revelation of Yahushua Messiah, which Yahuwah gave unto him, to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. Revelation 1 and 1. So Yahuwah gave the message to Yahushua, his son. And Yahushua then delivers the message to John. And Yahushua speaks directly in Revelation chapters 2 and 3 to the 7 assemblies, which are the 7 churches. What does blasphemy mean in this context? The Greek word used is blasphemia, meaning slander, evil speaking, false claim to sacred identity, and profaning what is holy. So when Yahushua says, I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, he is exposing impostors, people claiming to be the true tribe of Judah, Yehudah, but are not. He even calls them the synagogue of Satan. This points to identity theft, religious deception, and spiritual opposition to the true covenant people. Who are these false Jews? And is this really identity theft? Historically and prophetically, many believe this is a reference to certain groups that rose to religious, financial, and political power, claiming to be the Jews after the real house of Judah was scattered through slavery and exile. Yes, it is identity theft. Yahushua is addressing the true Israelites, especially those of Judah, and warning that others are masquerading as them. Say they are Jews means falsely claim to be Yehuda. Are not means they're not bloodline Israelites. These false claimants became associated with Talmudic Judaism, Zionism, or Ashkenazi and Edomite mixes, depending on which period of history you examine. Synagogue of Satan means they operate under deception, lies, and opposition to truth, and the phrase further implies organized religion or systems that oppose truth, reject Yahushua, and persecute the real seed. For additional prophetic insight, we reference other scripture, Romans 2:28 and 29. Paul also confirms that not all who say they are Jews truly are, for he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, but he is a Jew, which is one inwardly. And Jeremiah 14:2, Judah mourneth, they are black unto the ground. Many take this as evidence of the original Hebrews being of darker complexion, in contrast to the modern claimants of Jewish identity. So, yes, in Revelation 2 verse 9, Yahushua comforts and affirms the true descendants of Judah, who are suffering yet are spiritually rich. Then he rebukes the false Jews who say they are but are not, and instead they serve Satan's agenda through lies and usurpation.
Look like me. So what am I going to do about that? I'm going to make him look like me. So for hundreds of years we've been telling you, and now you have to keep in mind that we took away any other god that you might have through force, through fear, through pain, through any means necessary. So now I'm going to give you a God, but I'm going to do that in a way that it's going to further me. So I'm going to give you a God that looks like me, so that when you bow down to that God, you're bowing down to me. Because the reality is, and see, this is something that bothered me when I left the church out of frustration, because I wasn't hearing these things. Because the Bible tells us what Jesus looked like when he walked here. The Bible tells us what he's going to look like when he comes back. We have taken that and changed it. One of my grandchildren, when he was about 8 years old, I have a black nativity in my home that I put out at Christmas. And he had been there several times, and all of a sudden one day he brings me the baby Jesus. And he says, "Mama, this is not right." And I said, "What's not right?" He said, "This is not right, Mama." Now this is a child that every time he's with me, he gets lessons in this. My son says to the point to where he has to deprogram them when he gets them back home. This child knows where my heart is. This child, but this is not right, Mama. What's wrong? Tell me. Jesus wasn't black. Jesus was white. Who told you that? And then we have this great conversation. I tell them it's not something you have to go back and fight You don't have to go, because I don't want them beaten down until they're strong enough to know for what they believe, you know. But I want him to know the truth. I said, in your mind, in your heart, know. Do you remember when Jesus went to Egypt? He hid in Egypt. The people in Egypt, honey, they're not white people. How could he hide that? See, so that we've done that. We've given your people a God that looks like me so that you don't have any qualm about bowing down to me. See, because this is the image of God. I don't know of any sin that we've committed that's greater than that one. And we did it with the Bible in our hands when we were beating your ancestors for looking at us eye to eye. And we're quoting to them from this scripture. Even if we allowed them to have their own ministers, which there wasn't many of because we didn't allow them to read. But if we said, okay, you can have your church. This is my plantation. I'm going to do what I want with it. You can have your church. But then spies were sent. And those spies would stand outside the church, and that man would be beaten, perhaps killed, if he preached anything other than 3 sermons. And those 3 sermons were turn the other cheek, obey your master, and it's going to get better one of these days. God's going to take care of all of it. You're going to be in a happy, happy land. So put up with what you're putting up with now. And we made your people preach that to your people. And it's still being done. It's still being done. Those are the sermons that your people hear. Those sermons are what causes your people to comfort me when I do something that's wrong.
He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.